And it's funny you say that because when I stopped wearing weaves and wigs, I actually noticed that I attracted twice as many white dudes with my natural look. Weirdly enough, like I attracted a lot of black guys when I had weaves and I mean, I attract black guys in general, but like I attracted a lot of black guys when I had like fake hair on my head. But then when I shaved my head, it was like the white man came out of the corner. I was like, whoa, this is weird. And that's actually something I wanted to talk to you about. When I see interracial couples, and now I'm just generalizing based on what I've seen, right? And I've been in an interracial relationship. My dating history is a bit mixed. Like I've been with black guys, mixed, but my the last two guys I dated actually were white. And I noticed that, like, in general, when I see white dudes that are with black women, they tend to go to the black women that a lot of black men reject. So they're oftentimes very dark and very Afrocentric, and they all, I mean, I'm sure there's an element of a fetish that goes on in there, because I think with every group of people there is some kind of a fetish. Like there's always some people within that group that have a fetish, but generally, like the white guys I dated, when I wore my duku, when I shaved my head, when I was wearing African attire, it's almost like they were in a trance. The very things that, unfortunately, a lot of black boys would make fun of me for as a teenager. And so, what do you think about that? Why do you think that is? Like, what's your take on all of that? Because you're flexing now, and I can see you have a lot to say.
I love this. I love this. I study this all the time. I take all the time to study this. I lose my mind. I don't even have friends really, like people I hang out with. I'm just this guy who, like I always say, I'm on Mars. I'm just analyzing, breaking these things, unpacking. Uh, I was talking to a young brother, and I'm going to say this quickly, just a little footnote. If you're a brother and you're watching this, and you know a young brother in the society, in the wherever, and you know a young 18-year-old or young brother, it is our responsibility to put our arm around them. Even if you know he's going about his business, you're going about yours, go out your way. And you know you're always crossing paths. Go out your way to put your arm around him. Because there are hurdles that he's going yet to face or facing as an 18-year-old trying to maneuver, like I said, in his blackness in this society. And you've been 20-year-old, late 20s, having overcame those that you need to put onto that young brother. Because he's probably in the middle of drowning in coonery. You understand what I'm saying? And he's trying to figure out how he's gonna, he's trying to figure out things, and you could really help him by putting your arm around him. That's our responsibility. We empower ourselves, right? Yeah. But I want to tell you this. I told this young brother this. Oh goodness, God, I love you so much. And I want to say this so respectfully because I love this so much. Y'all, I'm respecting. This is mad respect. It's no disrespect. You ever see white girls? Do you ever see, I know black men went through this, and I asked this boy, and he goes, and that's why I know I'm doing my studies correctly. I said, I said this, you ever see this? And he goes, bro, I see this all the time. It makes me so mad. Right? And we used to always talk about this, right? I said, you ever see white girls who go for a white boy that we ourselves did not consider good looking? And we thought he was we thought that white boy was not considered, but we thought that white girl was something special, right? And we thought the white boy was so average, just blasé, kind of average dude. That's how we perceived it in our thing. Again, it's not our beauty to understand. Do you understand? Now, while we have been rehearsing ourselves to notice white beauty and Eurocentric. That's why we can know across the border. We know white women so well, all the different tastes and flavors, because our mind has been focused on that. Whereas they have not been, they're not dysfunctional, that they know the beauty within their race. So they can look at a guy who we think is not, and they say, no, I know white beauty. That fair skin with freckles, I love that kind of a guy. That ginger hair you think is not good, I love that kind of a guy. Because they're not warped and they've been enjoying their beauty. But we should be looking at women like that in our race, and we should understand all the different types of beauty in our own race. But we're not doing that because we're so focusing, Move over there, sister. I'm focusing on Becky. I'm focused on Becky's flowy hair. I'm focused on different. But if we were loving ourselves, we could look at a sister and say, and that's why we could look at a sister and say, oh, when she's looking black like that, I love it. When she's looking super black, I love it. When she's looking super African, I love it. Do you understand what I'm saying? Because we'd be focusing our minds on how to. So now we only give the black girls a rating who come up to this Eurocentric standard of the shelf and say, this is a black woman, I will go for it. She's nice. You know what I'm trying to say? She's nice. But like I said about my features, we're so busy focused on the Eurocentric that there are so much elements to blackness that one of my favorite things about now that I'm awake is like the things that I hated are the things that I love. I love the fact that I'm a little bit. I remember boys used to kind of call me like gorilla or whatever, even though I will never allow a white man to make that joke at me. Still, you know your boundaries. But I like having that. Sometimes I even want my face to be a little bit more blackish, a little bit more roughed up. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I'm there now, sis. I'm looking in the mirror. I'm saying, bro, you're too Eurocentric. I want a little bit more. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I now love blackness. I now love blackness. I now look at it and we used to look at a black man, oh, he got a big nose, he's fresh from Africa. I now can admire someone who's fresh off the boat. I can admire, do you understand what I'm saying? Because now my mind is now warped. I'm enjoying what's mine and not looking at the grass that's greener. And we were analyzing all the beauty that they had, and we know their beauty so well. We can tell you, that's vanilla with a little bit of sweetness. That's a vanilla. We can tell you all the types of vanilla. Meanwhile, you ask someone to tell, if we're vanilla connoisseurs, but when it comes to talking about chocolate, we vanilla connoisseurs. But it's time for you to be a chocolate connoisseur. You don't really know chocolate like that. Someone's asking you to tell me all the different, and now we have this hang up about ourselves. Now a white man comes in, sometimes with not as much hang up as we have, and he's like, girl, I like your hair short. Girl, I like when you're looking super African. Girl, I like when you're looking like that. And we have the hang up. Sorry, I want to finish this. We have the hang up about ourselves because that's the self-hate that we're running from. You feel me?
Yeah. So essentially what you're saying is, sorry, vanilla connoisseur took me out. I have to get it out of my head. But essentially what you're saying is the reason why, for example, you then see the white guys that do date black girls, the reason why you see them dating the very Afrocentric looking black girls is because they're able to see the beauty in their own women, that it's easier for them to then see the beauty in others. Is that what you're saying? That
they're not caught up in this hang up about themselves. They're not in this. The vision is not blurred about themselves.
their dating options essentially don't have to be tied into their struggle the way that black men's dating options are.
Our eyes is tied to our struggle, so our goggles are fogged with our struggle. So when you see something that's too African, that's something I'm running from. You know what I'm trying to say? I'm running from being too African, too black, we have that. Like, I remember, and I know my homies back home, they know me, they're going to see this. Like, we say, damn, you acting bad niggers? You acting, all the homies will kind of put you on like, you acting too. And I'm going to paraphrase, Western up. I seen you in town yesterday, you acting very... if you're loud, because we're generally loud people, we're generally expressive people, and some of my elders looking out for me will come and say, you're acting bare niggerish. I seen you
acting bare nigger. Is that what they're saying?
Niggerish.
Oh, nigger. Oh, wow.
Niggerish. You're acting bare niggerish. And I was like, why? Because I saw you would be loud. I knew from down the road it was Harrison. Because you were acting bare nigger. So we knew.
And this is like black guys saying this to you?
Black, I'm telling you what we always talk about back home. And I was a very popular guy. You know that, right?
I remember how popular you were. Trust me, I remember that part.
So I can tell you across the border, that's how we all spoke. Yes, we had different lingos for if I had certain Dublin mates who I was friends with or Selbridge mates who I was friends with. But across the border, there were these, that same type of topics that we would speak on or behavior or whatever, but maybe my Dublin friends wouldn't say use the term bare niggerish. They would say, yeah, y'all niggas acting so, you know what I mean? They would phrase it like that when I'm with the Dublin guys and then when I'm guys back home. But there was this understanding of like, bro, you acting in a way where if the white man was here right now, he'd be questioning you. He'd be looking at you like you give him a reason to profile you. You'd give him a reason to stick you to
Like a stereotype.
a stereotype.
Actually, because I have two questions, but I just want to kind of like circumvent for 2 minutes because I want to stick to that section of stereotype. The one topic of conversation, and I think it's because of so just a quick history about just a quick thing about my background. I studied I didn't finish the study, but I studied international law in the Netherlands. And obviously we know that the Netherlands, over there, marijuana is decriminalized, and so you can actually get it at various dispensaries. And I noticed that like the attitude that I'm very fortunate to say that I'm quite picky. I haven't had the best luck in relationships, but I've been very fortunate to have very, very good friends in both white women and black women and all that stuff. And so fortunately my Dutch friends were not like this. But one thing that I definitely noticed is that the attitude that people had towards black people that smoked weed versus white people that smoked weed was very like it was almost known like as like a black thing to smoke weed, even though like there's a lot of like, even if you look at statistics in Ireland, in the United States, weed is like the second most used substance amongst white people, amongst most people, but amongst white people. But like a black person and a white person could do the exact same thing, but it would be perceived so differently. So, and yet, it's funny. I was talking about this with my sister. Brittany and I were talking about how, like, when we then imagine stoners, though, we don't imagine black people. We happen to, like, we imagine the people that we see, here in Dublin, here in Tala, and oftentimes, they're Irish. But when we think of stoners, because a lot of the blacks that we know who smoke oftentimes are actually very functioning. So I wouldn't even know if I can call them stoners, that kind of thing. But it's also really funny as well in how, natural medicine, for example, practicing natural medicine has been a black person thing since the beginning of time. Natural medicine has actually existed since before modern medicine. So Irish people were doing modern natural medicine, Asian people, all of the entire human race has been relying on natural medicine for so long. But nowadays, it's become a lucrative business deal for the likes of Gwyneth Paltrow and other, white Hollywood women. But then when black women do it, it's almost like we're thrown into the category of Erykah Badu, and people think that we're just like trying to cast spells on people. And it's like, wait, when Gwyneth Paltrow releases a candle that smells like her vagina, people think so it's something else. But then if a black woman then says, oh, I use herbs instead of medicine, suddenly it's, oh, you're weird. Oh, you're primitive. And so what's your take on that? What do you see? Who do you think applies the stereotypes on us more? Do you think that we get stereotyped more by our own, or we get stereotyped more by non-black people? Or do you think that it's just something that is just the condition of being, should I say, a Negro? That it's just the stereotypes will always be there.
And that's why I love the term internalized oppression. I went to Google it just 2 days ago just to check the definition of it. Internalized oppression. It's when you have internalized your environment. So you felt your environment and then you internalize your environment. So now it's double-edged sword, right? So now you go into a place and know these are the hurdles, all these things, okay, these are the things that may be assumed about me, and you are internalizing that before anything's even happened in the room. So there's a negative side of that as well, and before anything's even happened. And check this out, right? Sometimes, and this is what I love about life as well, white people see us clearer than we see ourselves. They see our mistakes clearly. We see ourselves because
go deeper into that, because I don't get that.
We've brainwashed ourselves with a lot of things because we're trauma. We're in like a, like, for example, this is the best way, right? Like a battered woman syndrome. You're like a woman who's in this relationship and she's really thinking like her and her man, they're in love, and everyone's looking at you, girl, you, the two of y'all crazy, and the two of y'all, just say like, and you're
saying that that white people see things about us that we don't see about ourselves?
Exactly, because
what do they see?
One thing I've noticed, right, is that subconsciously white people knew that we were trying to get ourselves into their society. They knew, so they see subconsciously our behaviors, subconsciously of trying to be over polite, trying to be over pleasant, trying to be over. And how I knew that is when I was a black person who was trying to step outside of that, I always got this reaction of like, black people don't behave like that. Black people don't behave like that. I know Johnny down the road, and he's an Uncle Tom. His energy is, because we've always had to show we're pleasant. I'm not a bad Negro. I'm a very good Negro. I'm a very nice Negro. I'm well raised. Everything you heard about black people being people who came and they're thugs. No, I'm well raised. Subconscious again. Hello? Subconscious.
Would you say that a lot of the popularity that you had in Ireland as Harrison Paul, as you are, came from the fact that you were being the good Negro, that you were sort of pleasing them, entertaining them, and sort of assimilating to what they expected from you? It's not really because it was you, it was because you were basically internalizing the subconscious stereotypes that they had towards you as a black guy?
Girl, I'm gonna keep it 100 with you, alright? And I always say this to my mom because she felt the same way too. And anybody who looked at me, that's why I know black people, they should respect me when they see me. I don't say that in a pompous way, and I say it in a way where, like, if they know me, they knew I had it good. I had it going good for me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, I really feel like I had successfully eradicated, a lot of, I assimilated very well. I had it going very good for myself. I had it good. You know what I'm saying? Like, I really had it going good for myself. I can honestly say, like, I'm a black person who literally traded in everything I had. Not to mention I was a black person who was actually quite successful in a white realm. Right? Because I was in a band that was like a very Irish band, right? We did instruments, very Ed Sheeran, lead singer. Anybody who remembers my band would know that. So we had the heart of Ireland, in terms of like Irishness. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, so I've been up even in those higher places, and I knew how to conduct myself in those places and make the head of RTE or those people see me and say, "Hi, goodness, Harrison, nice to see you again. Oh yeah, Johnny, yeah." I had it. And I'm ready to give it away. I'm not even ready. I've given it away. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not only in those small places amongst peers, but amongst television people. I know your name, Harrison, and I know they would say he's a great Negro. That Harrison fella, he's definitely not like the other ones. He's a great.
So they'll probably be shocked if they were to.
They'll be shocked. What went wrong, Harry? Tom.
And so, going back into that, your popularity in Ireland and how much Irish people liked you, I and your connection to Irishness, and at the time, I want to ask you two things. And I want to ask you one question, but there's two reasons why, or should I say two questions, one reason why. I remember when Conor McGregor he experienced, was it that he was at the heart of controversy some years ago, probably a decade ago, a little less.
I actually double checked. It could have been 2017.
Oh, 2017. So like about in the last 6-7. Oh yeah, because I keep forgetting that 20. Yeah, it feels like it's still 2015 in my head, but like 6-7 years ago, Conor McGregor was at the heart of one of his many controversies, but this time it was a racial controversy because he referred to, I don't know if he referred to one person or a group of people who were black as monkeys. And I remember a lot of Irish people came into his defense because they were saying, "Oh no, this is Ireland. Our teachers call us monkeys. Like monkeys is actually just a very used Irish term." And I fully agree that because I've heard Irish people say it. I still hear Irish people say it. And I specifically remember how vocal you were on social media, especially Facebook, I think, about that situation. And you were like, "No, we're just Irish. That's just how we are. He's not being racist. He's just being Irish." Do you like? How do you feel about that controversy now, with the understanding of race and the way you've educated yourself clearly on the topic of race relations and all that stuff? Do you, looking back on a situation like that, is that something that your mindset would have changed as well, or do you still agree with the fact that he wasn't being racist?
He was very much being Irish and being racist. He was very much being Irish and being racist.
Why has your mind changed on that situation, if it has? Or why is it that you wouldn't defend Conor McGregor in that situation now when you did before?
So let me start by telling you my story then, because I think that's the best way for me to explain it. And I will first tie back to the moment where I said that we were so willing to be a part of the white society that we were willing to sacrifice ourselves. Remember that as the joke, as a joke, So that's why we normalized it. But I'm going to tell you how my story started as a pro black outspoken. 2020, George Floyd died, and the same week that he died, there was some boys from back home that I knew who posted a post, and that kind of sparked it off for me. And it was these two guys who posted a post where one of them was wearing a "Make America Great Again" cap by Donald Trump, and the other guy was wearing a gorilla mask. And they were on like a boat, right? They were on a boat. And just to kind of give a footnote, we also investigated this guy who was actually a police officer in Ireland, and found out that he actually had tweets from when he was still in his teens and just younger. And one tweet said, someone goes, I have to go to the doctor to check out my broken ankle or something. And he replied to that person, "It could be worse, you could be black." That was something that he responded to the friend. There was another tweet that he said about black tweets, and people were kind of digging out his dirt in that time. So I want to put a footnote anybody who will try and say that post maybe wasn't a racist connotation in it, because I'm sick of those people. But so basically, him and his friends, they took this picture, right? One of them was wearing a cap, the other one's wearing a mask. And now I was on Instagram and I seen the picture posted. And this was 2019 or 2020 when I had just came back, because I came back from living in North America, and I left 2016. I'd only come back 2019, late 2019. So I was living in North America for a while. Lived in LA for some time, and then most of the time I was living in Toronto. And so my environment with black men changed. The black men I was around changed. The black women I was around changed. Life changed for me. So black life changed for me. Black perspective, black dynamics with white people, it all changed drastically. And I want to give another footnote. I'll never forget when I got to LA. Man, I really love God for this. And I remember the guys would always look at me kind of like, and now I can actually think back to it, and I remember they were calling me a coon. They were calling me a coon, yeah. But they were liking me. Like, they were liking me. I was a nice guy, right? And I remember I would be chilling with them, and they go, you a different nigga, man. You a different nigga. You a different. Like, they were kind of like, and I remember, now that I'm awake, they were kind of saying, "Who's this coon boy?" Do you understand what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they were saying that. And I remember I had my old black Americans I was around, and they were looking at me like, you know what I'm trying to say? Like, bro, you're like, and I knew that, because it's in the mannerisms. It's in when you're less white conscious, it's in the mannerisms. When you, as a black person, whether you like or not, it's in your mannerisms. You can tell, you can really tell it, right? So I was there, and he posted that post, right? And when he posted that post, I saw it, and I did a video. Because I was like, this is off. And I did a quick video, and I posted it, and it kind of went viral, and there was a whole lot of pushback, and there were lads who were kind of like, oh, take it down, and demanding me to take it down, and anyway, I want to not get into that for too long, but long story short, that whole experience opened up to me the difference of the dynamics between where I was living, I just come from, and home. And that was like a wake-up call to be like, oh yeah, like this is how they talk to us. This is how they joked with us. This is who we were in society. You could just spit on a black person. That don't mean nothing. It's a joke, bro. You know what I mean? Like, that's where you sat in society, that you had to take that kind of joke. You know what I'm trying to say? And I said it in my Instagram story recently, so I'm trying to like make myself, for anybody who didn't see that story, to make them understand that it was the awakening of when white people came to me with this sense of dominance, and it was like, take the post down now. you know? And I was noticing and learning the lack of respect that the Irish white man had for the black man, that he came with a dominant, and all his peers and all his people who knew him were coming with this dominance of like, do you understand? They knew where I belonged in society.
So essentially, they ended up taking on the role of telling you what to do and expecting you to listen just because they said it.
Exactly. And so you're reading this, right? So then we talk about Conor McGregor and we talk about that. It's like, that's the exact same thing, right? It's like, oh, he forgot. He made a joke. That's what I love about it. He made a joke with the wrong person. He made a joke with a black American, where we don't take that. Blacks out there don't take that type of joking. They don't. We got way too much respect of ourselves than to be boys who are called Blarison by your football coach. And they got and we had elders who got a whiff of that, and they wouldn't even, if my American elders had got a whiff of that, there would have been a problem, you know. And I say that respect because I'm trying to say, okay, people would think, okay, Harrison, you were kids at the time, right? You were young. We were like 12, 14, 13, 14. Okay, that's your excuse. But I had elders who were a lot older, and they got a whiff of that, and it never came to struck them as something that they have to handle. I know one thing for sure. If I put that across to my friends, I remember my friends in America, they say, he said what? He didn't say, what are you? That white man said, what? Do you know what I'm saying? He called you a what? He what? And goes, oh, and if I had told them, he's joking, they would have looked at me like, with a stink face, like, oh, so you were, so you his prostitute. He can just play with you and talk with you anyway like that, you know. And that's why they have that. There's that friction in North America that we think, oh, look at them, they're crazy people. They're developing boundaries. They're developing boundaries. Black people are more standing up for themselves, and the white people who want to just kind of push past that are having a problem with that. So that, do I believe in that before? That was a brilliant example of who I was. A perfect example of the state of the Irish Negro. That he loved his master so much, he would die for his master. He would die for his oppressor.
Participate in his own oppression.
He would participate in his own oppression.
And so, how do white people respond to your stories and your mainly your stories on Instagram now? Like the white people that do follow you. How have your white friends who you were very popular with, you know, as a teenager and even as a kid, because I remember you also just a little while ago, you also said that, you know, you don't even have a big circle anymore. And so I want you to take me through, not from your awakening in 2020 up until now. I want you to take me through the changes that have gone through, that have occurred in your circle with these people ever since you got your platform, and not just with white people, but also with black people too. How have people in general responded to your views on blackness? And you know, because you know, I every time you post, you're one of the first ones that pops up on my stories. So you know, you firstly, I'll say this: you don't say things that you haven't thought about or that you haven't read about. So a lot of your posts, you know, aren't even opinions, but they're also facts and statistics and video. You come with receipts, so that's one thing that people can't take away from you at all. But just since your awakening in the last 3 years, what has been the response of people who watch your stories? Let's forget the people that agree with you, the people who haven't, especially. What has that been like?
Girl, I'm a lonely soldier at the moment. I'll tell you that. Everyone done walked out. It reminds me of a Bible scripture where Christ said to his disciples, he said, unless you drink my blood and eat my flesh, you will not be with me. I think he said in heaven. Yeah. And then everyone turned, and it's a famous one, and everyone turned, and some of them said, oh, this is a doctrine that how can we expect people, this is some gruesome stuff. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And the Bible actually says that some of them walked. They walked and they said, this is disgusting. And he didn't bother to break it down in that moment. So obviously that tells in the scripture, he didn't bother. Obviously he was meaning what we know as Christian, that means to, you know what I mean, by his stripes we're healed, by his, you know what I mean, like almost
Believing in
metaphorically
him.
what believing in him, right? But he kind of put that in the rawness and he put it there, and some of them walked actually. And then the Bible goes on to say that after he walked, he asked a few others that were there, do you want to go too? And then they said, Lord, Peter said famously, said, Lord, where should we go? You know, you are the truth and the life, you know, I'm here to stay. But it was like that, you know, it's been just people walk and say, whoa, this is a doctrine that's way too much for me to take. And what I love about it is that, I don't want to shift to the people who who like it, but I'll never forget when I made my first video about activism, the one that a lot of white people did like. So although the people who were on his side were offended, a lot of the white people were like, yeah, he's just trying to voice his opinion. And they wanted it that way. It was nice. I'm not crossing my boundaries. And I'll never forget, the only person who came to me to check me was my friend from America. I'm giving him a shout out, Casey. So my friend Casey called me out and was not happy with the way I was speaking at all. You know, didn't like it. Felt it was like I was trying to appease. I was trying to, be, please understand me, beggy. And now I'm completely different to that, so everyone's walked a very, very, very lonely road and I know one thing, in America, I'm an average Black American. I am an average Black American. I know that if you look at TikTok for real, they're all so vigilant. When Juneteenth comes, when Black History Month comes, they're so vigilant in terms of even when you see them in comment sections, even if they're joking, they'll be joking about, let's say, what's her name? The one who saved the slaves.
Harriet Tubman.
Harriet. You know how they are about Harriet. That's
they
their
love Harriet. That's their queen.
Their queen, and that's not even, we're not even in our culture. Do you know what I'm saying? In Ireland, think of who do we have? Do we have lingo? Do we have Black history lingo in our Irish Black lingo?
Not much, no. We more have adopted, because we more have just, the only way that I think we've distinguished ourselves is by adopting West African slang. That's one thing I've seen, but that's as far as it goes.
That's as far as it goes, right? And that's not anything, right? But when they refer to, let's say, a Harriet, that says so much about them not being afraid of the topic. They're not afraid of the topic. They even look up to their queen for that reason, for being, I'm trying to say, on Martin Luther's day, they will all look up to Martin Luther, and another thing I learned from them is that, it means so much to them that they can still walk past that place where anyone who lives in Memphis can walk past the place where Martin Luther was shot. That means a lot, I realized, it means a lot when I was speaking to an African American and he was telling me his grandmother was in the march that Martin Luther did, that big march, you know what I mean? It's that means a lot to them. So the aroma of those great people is passed down when Grandma Aunt Junie or Grandma Junie tells her grandson, oh, not far, we had to fight, you know what I'm saying? And I remember when a white man, he did this to me, and you better not let the white man do that to you neither. Do you understand what I'm saying? So a little boy grows up understanding, okay, Mom Junie, okay, Grandma Junie, I'm not going to let white man do me like that, no neither. So they grow up fighters. Do you understand what I'm saying? And they grow up, whereas Africans fled from Africa to Europe, we just want paper. If they abuse you, if they mistreat you, if they do just take whatever, because we're here for paper. We have escaped Africa and we've escaped our stupidity and we hate Africa and we spoke about our leaders and leaders are corrupt and Africa's corrupt and we are finally here in a civilized land. And yes, don't mess it up for us. Yeah. Whereas Aunt Junie was teaching her grandchildren, and when you go to school, you better not you better not take nothing from me. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So I remember talking to a friend of mine, and he was telling me about his grandma. That's the one I always refer to. And it's I had never seen a Black man talk about white people like that so openly. I never so candidly, so vigilantly, so, I want to say proper. You know what I mean? Like, us, it was always in a manner of gossip. Oh, these white people, huh? These white people, they do this like this. We don't like that. It was
We're
very
not open about
timidly.
the dissatisfaction, is what you're saying.
Yes, we're on the receiving end. We're like slaves who are unhappy about the master. There go master again. I'm tired of him. See, when master he always does that. Oh, here comes 9 o'clock. Now he's gonna come out with that stupid, and we just gossiping on the field. Whereas his came from so much more of a dominant place of like, and yeah, this is where we're at the fight with white people. We almost got them. Like, we about to, you know what I mean? It just seemed like a different stance that they were taking. I was like, it's not something I heard back home. You know what I mean? Although I know we're facing the same white man, because that's something that spread universally. Racism has no borders, but no one talks about it in that dynamic, in that more of a strength, a dynamic of strength of, don't worry, we're going to take these folk down. My grandma taught me how we going to take these folk down. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, I learned that from them.
Do you think that maybe part of the reason why they're like that is because they have a history to draw from, whereas for us, our history is still being formed? Like, do you think that because we've only been here? I mean, of course, there've been Black people coming to Ireland since the 70s, 60s, but in terms of like should I say, the mass immigration that happened in the early 2000s, it's only really been 2 decades that we've been here. So do you think that maybe right now we don't have a Harriet, but I mean, ideally, we shouldn't even have one, if you get what I'm trying to say. But like, we might not have that. But do you think that we just don't have it because we just haven't been here long enough? Do you think because technically, the reason why we even call ourselves, Black Irish or Afro-European is because we haven't really, okay, I know in the United States they call them African Americans, but the history is a bit different. But part of the reason why we call ourselves that, because I don't actually hear a lot of Irish people call us Black Irish. They just either call us foreign or Irish. Like, there have been a lot of Irish people who've actually said to me, oh, but you're Irish, that kind of thing. And so do you think that maybe it's that way in comparison to African Americans because the history just isn't long enough for Black people in Ireland to have the same reference, to have the same, morale? Because if you look at, for example, if I were to look at the history behind my parents coming here, my dad came here on a working visa, and my mom too, both my parents came here working. And for them, it was just, we just want to just make a life for our kids. They weren't forced to come here. It was a choice that they made. So the history of why a lot of people even, okay, yeah, you can argue that a lot of people are kind of forced to come here because their condition back home might not be conducive for them to, be financially secure. And so do you think that because we came here by choice as opposed to being forced, there isn't the same, like, if you look at the transatlantic slave trade of the United States, right? These were, obviously people that went to African land, negotiated with the African kings, and they gave away the strongest and all the most beautiful women and all those things. And so then there were these slaves that they then traded, then took them to, the Caribbean, the United States. And so they were kind of thrown without even the mental preparation of knowing that they were going somewhere different. And when you go into someone's house, you immediately want to do as they do because you understand that it is their house. And so my friends, when they come here, they're like, okay, should I take off my shoes? Because they see that all the shoes are at the door, and they know that in Tatenda's house, you take off your shoes at the door. But then I have some other friends who, because they're very free flow, they don't care what you wear or what you do when you get into their house. And so do you think that part of the reason why we don't have, as Africans in Europe, especially the UK and Ireland, part of the reason why we don't have that same morale when it comes to racism is because the history of us being here is one of dire circumstances, but choice versus, being taken on a boat and kind of being forced, that kind of
So,
thing.
sis, the first thing I want to say to you is I want to go back to what you just said about that thing. That's a narrative that they're trying to make us push to dilute the thing about us who gave away our slaves. Let's be very, very, very mindful about that, because one thing I am sure of that is that if we were in a place of war at that time and we knew that this was a violent war that was about to take place, first of all, Black people would have been prepared. Second of all, black people wouldn't have given away our people. So that tells us that the dynamic at that point was not a dynamic of like, okay, take these people, just promise to leave us alone. That was not the dynamic, because if we're giving you our most beautiful, like you said, if we're, cause I hear this a lot, if we're giving you like it was we gave away slaves. Listen, slaves is something that's even in the Bible that people are very conflicted about. And slavery was never a thing where you dictated that someone was 3/5 of a human being and you told all your being that. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this was literally a worker. It was someone who was probably poor, no money, no nothing. And it's like, okay, you either die here poor and hungry, or there might be something for you there to go.
So you think it was more of a trafficking situation than a negotiation?
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just like, yeah. And I don't think that these people went over in packed like sardines on a boat in chains and went over. I think these people went over probably even ready to go for work and of some sort, if that happened.
So it was more of a, of course it was, they ended up becoming slaves, but you actually think it's are you essentially implying that it's more like transatlantic trafficking, where they get promised, or they basically targeted the ones who, probably didn't have much in the land that they were in, and then they were like, oh, if you just come to us, so it's not enough that we've taken some diamonds and spices, but do you want to come and help us make them? Oh, I see. Okay.
Because I'm saying, sis, it's like they make it seem like, oh, we were the violent ones and we taught them how to be violent. Well, then I'm thinking, if I'm a king of Uganda and I've got the white man coming to me and he's come to me in a clearly violent way, my aim is to kill this man. So now you're telling me that these people negotiated something?
Okay, because what I had read about history was that they that essentially they came under the guise of, oh, we're here to do business and we're here to trade, and then we'll give you this if you give us a section of your army. That's what I had read. Obviously, like I would need to. You clearly have a lot more information on that than I do. But the way that history tries to phrase it is almost like we had no gatekeepers. Because the question is, because one question that a lot of people said is, oh, but who let these people in? And so the way they kind of phrase it is almost like, oh, we negotiated, but you were just dumb.
So no, because that's the thing. And I understand black people were probably too welcoming. As we know our culture, we were welcoming, we were trusting. We were trusting, and they said, go there, go. And then these white folk went back and said, there's some nice people over there. They're nice as heck. Let's blow up the guns and get back over there, and this time come with a vengeance. And now, the king of Uganda, who is a king, is fighting for his life. Because someone has come with a gun when he had never invented a gun. He had never thought about inventing a gun.
Because he didn't need to.
So this thing... Pardon?
Because he didn't need to. Because
he didn't need to. So, because everyone just say, do you know your people gave them as slaves first? Or do you know your people... And I'm trying to digest that, because it's like, I can see you're trying to dilute everything. It's like, okay, so you're telling me what happened is the white people came in the manner that they came when they came for the second time, right? Or whatever, that second term, the violent term, right? And they came and they said, we're going to make your people 3/5 of a human being. We're going to do this, and we're going to make this thing. We're going to pack them like sardines on a boat, and we're going to make sons sleep with their mothers. And when sons sleep with their mothers, because we want, sons were made sleep with their mothers, right? Yes. Sons were made sleep with their mothers to try and produce more slaves. You were forced to have sex with your mother, or to literally, because they needed another slave. These are in the books. I haven't read. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So you're telling me Uganda thing was like, yeah, we're going to do this to them. And if that happened, if we gave them away, it was two kings shaking hands. How are you? Like, even another thing is like, you know why a lot of wives were allowed back in the Bible days as well? It's beforehand. It's because there were poverty. So if a rich man could have many wives, he's just saving women's lives from poverty. So if you're thinking back in those times, someone who's probably lives in the rural, everything was rural in those times, probably didn't have much food, probably didn't whatever, and it's like he was probably a slave of the king. Because like, listen, I have nowhere to go, I have nothing to do, I'll be your slave. He's a slave of the king. He was not 3/5 of a human being. He was not told that because he was black, he was nothing as a human being. That was not it. He was just a king's slave.
So when you're saying, like, with everything that you're telling me, so when you say this, like, for example, give me an example of a white person that responded to what it is that you're telling me now, for example. Like when you then tell people these kinds of, or when you express your opinion, what is the response of not just a white person, honestly, but taking away the people that agree with you or that send you messages saying, "Oh, I agree," or taking away the people that, let's say, have never heard what you're saying and they're genuinely curious. When you receive, because you said that it's a lonely road, how do people respond? What do people say? What are the messages you've received? How have people walked away from you?
Literally, like, literally, you know what I do? And I have a very, very bad habit, and I want to get over it because I don't like living like that. I don't like giving people that much power over me. But I do a regular check on everyone who I know is what a regular check on the unfollow button. You know how to check if someone unfollowed you, right? You literally check if they're following, who they're following. When you go to someone's following, you can check it, and then their name can come up. Your name should be the first name. So I'm literally waiting for a thing, especially after doing a radical post. I know. Oh, here we go. Let me do my round and check. Oh yeah, I knew they weren't going to be able to take that one. I unfollowed. That's it. You're gone. Like I'm literally waiting.
So people unfollow you. Have you had people actively confront you?
You're so divisive, man. Why are you causing division, man? Why are you causing division? You're causing division. It shouldn't be about black or white. It shouldn't be about that. And then you get black people who are looking at you like you deal drugs. Look, bro, look, I got it going good for myself here. I'm not into all this. And then, of course, my sisters who don't like me addressing the weave, they'll also hate it and they'll unfollow me as well. And it's definitely been a tough road. That's why I'm sure about what I do because I'm before I do anything, I assess it and I pray and I meditate on it because I know that people's feelings. I'm a very empathetic person. I know people's feelings are on the other side, and I have to make a proper decision that this awakening is something that really freed me, and it can free somebody else, and I see it.
Have you had, I'm specifically curious about, because I do know that you did have a solid, I don't know how many, but from, if I recall correctly, from Instagram photo, because now I'm trying to search my memory from when we lived in Ireland at the same time before this time. When we lived in Ireland at the same time, you did have a solid team, or a solid group of white male friends too. How have how have they responded to this Harrison now that is very pro black and very vocal about, what these white, even if it's not them individually, if we just talk about the white, if we just if you hear me say the white man in this interview, it's just for the sake of generalization. So how how have those, if those friendships still exist, when those solid white male friends you had at some point, how have they responded? Where are they now in terms of your life and your well, you're more than an activist, but your blackness? How have they responded to that?
Well, it always confirms for me where we are and the work I have to do and because one thing I know about white Americans, what I love about white Americans, this is why I made the phrase today that I know people won't like, and I said racism, being racist is an Irish thing, unfortunately. If you analyze white Americans, they love and they have accepted, of course, the conservatives who are saying, listen, this place is going in a direction we don't like it. White Americans have, I don't know if you're on TikTok. Are you on TikTok?
I am on TikTok, yeah.
Maybe I'm on a different, I'm not on TikTok, I'm barely on TikTok. Really, it's my mom who's on TikTok and she sends me all the good stuff, you know what I mean? But, and her TikTok is very political because that's what she's always done. In fact, a lot of me, I have to give credit to this lady, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. If you're thinking, wow, where did he get all this from? It's a 58-year-old experience. She's 59, I think. And is also able to download things into me. We discuss things and we divulge things together, and it's very helpful. But she will send me things, and I noticed that they're on the agenda of black. Like a black American can give the most radical post that I've seen. Listen, because I don't white was one I remember seeing like, if you're a white girl, don't call me sis. Did you see that? If you're white, don't call me sis.
I've seen
and
that.
They can be on a really radical, like sometimes unnecessary. And white girls would be on the wave and saying, give them their space. They just have so much respect for that fight. They have so much respect. Their grandmothers too taught them and saying, no, that's why I respect American white people. Their grandmothers do tell them like, no, I remember when Martin Luther was shot and that man did nothing wrong. So there are some good white people who tell their kids, no, allow them to vent, allow them to express, allow them to grieve, allow them to fight. Do you understand what I'm saying? And they don't police their fight. In fact, encourage them, support them, and they can see them. And that's why we can have something like the Super Bowl in America, where it's literally a black show and a celebration of black people on the main stage. Never in Ireland will you see a moment like a Super Bowl where it could be something that's because Super Bowl is very American, right? It's very, imagine something very Irish, white, Irish, and they use that platform to celebrate black culture.
Some people would argue that because Irish culture is not black culture, they're not obligated to celebrate it.
But this is the point that I want to say to you. This is why I thank you, because I hate the fact that they cut out everything in the history books, because a lot of the Western civilization was built off of the backs of slave trade. Even though there were Irish people who were slave owners, obviously Irish blood. A lot of people from the UK have Irish blood. So this thing that Irish people were like, cleansed, they were not involved in it. Well, I know so many English people who have Irish blood. So what does that tell you? When you look at a name like Tom Brady, Brady's an Irish name.
Yeah, that's true. You probably.
And that's an American man. So it's just, people are not even looking, they're just deflecting. That means it was an American man. So when you look at Irish people, I talked to loads of Americans that tell you, oh yeah, my great grandmother was Irish. So that means its whiteness does go across the border. It did go across the border. Do you understand? So they'll say, oh no, we weren't involved in that, or we weren't whatever. Now, this is the point that I want to say. I actually read about it, that like there were big, I think Trinity College was built off of tobacco. That one in Dublin, Trinity, was built off tobacco. You can go look it up.
It was, what do you mean it was built off tobacco?
Tobacco slave trade, the tobacco earnings.
Oh,
yes.
That I did not know.
Big spaces in Ireland were built off of the tobacco money. And not only that, right? But the civilization in the West, I don't even want to start getting into details. Just know the civilization in general of the West today, yesterday and today, meaning the resources that they're eating from it now and yesterday from when the slave trade happened. The West is a place that the world wants to go to, because the success of the West has always meant the detriment of Africa. Because y'all don't grow anything, y'all don't make anything. Every natural resource that you need, if Ireland has great resources for laptops, well, the mineral that's used to make laptops and iPhones are found in Congo. So this is our home. The whole civilization of the West, if we want to talk about history and today, has been built off of the detriment of Africa. If you see Africa bleeding and suffering, and the West flourishing, it's been to the detriment of Africa.
So, Harrison, you've said a lot, but I do have one question. How do you actually feel about white people? Do you like white people? Do you hate white people? Because you're very strongly opinionated about them. But the one thing I never actually heard you say is what you actually feel towards white people. And what is that?
I'm going to give you a short answer, and I'm going to start by saying I love white people. And I actually today I was thinking about something that I want to say, and that made me think about it. And I thought about it saying, I'm divulging the word racism and the meaning of racism. And because society was raised racist, because society is racist, because we were built to think Africa was the place we were supposed to feel sorry for. We were designed, everybody, no one was exempt from this virus from the beginning of that time till now, that our perspective on Africa or the African or the black man, the black woman, no one's exempt from it. So when you become a racist, to me, is when you want to deflect or you want to reject the work that needs to be done. That means you're telling me that I want to be where I am, and that means that you've chosen racism. Because I believe everyone is unfortunately inherently racist, but they have to do the work. Even the people who claim today that they're not racist. If a white person tells you today that they're just not racist just because poof, I just wasn't racist, they're a damn liar. They're a damn liar. Because any white person, even I had a close friend of mine come to me quite recently, and I loved him for this so much. I love you, bro, and I'm gonna say this again. He goes to me, bro, I had those opinions. I had those things, and I did have those things. And when I first met you, you were actually the first black friend that I had, and I did have these thoughts, and I did think these things that were fed in my mind about you guys, and I did the work. There is no person, black person or white, there's no one exempt from the work that had to be done. So if you hear a white person telling you, I'm not racist just because I'm not, just because I'm a good person, just because it just fell on me, run from them. Run from them. They had to do the work. Every person had to do the work.
Do you think black people can be racist towards white people?
Now, racism has to do with power. That's the word that everyone is saying now. It has to do with this gatekeeping of power. It has to do with, this marginalization of a society. You're marginalizing. You're putting whatever, and I believe that any feeling that the black man would have towards the white man is a bitter feeling. It's bitterness. It's like asking a slave on the plantation, "You're racist." No, he's bitter. He's bitter. He's bitter. He's bitter. He's bitter. He's bitter. So you can be technical and say, yeah, you can hate someone for the race, but I don't think the black person hated the white man for his mere existence and said, ew, your nose is just small. Like, we were just, like, that was something that was just like, ew, their noses are big. Like, ew, their lips are big. You know what I'm going to say? Why do you hate black people? I don't know. They just look
What
like monkeys to me.
The black man has never looked at the white man and say, I hate you because of your features. It's more like, I hate you because of how you treated me.
There you go.
I see. And how do you, to kind of go back to the question that I asked you before, given the fact that the relationship that you're in now is the first, it's the first black woman you've ever been with, romantically, and you say you're 26 going on 27. And so, did you, I'm assuming the women of your past have been white?
Yes.
And so, did you truly care for the white women of your past? Did you, or is it that you were drawn to them for the subconscious reasons that you listed at the beginning?
I'm so happy we're going back to this because I was getting scared that I was not going to get to clarify this and whatever. I want to say this again. If we have a girl who was touched by her uncle and she's trying to find her way back in her adolescence to being a normal girl and embracing love normally, embracing sex normally, embracing all these things normally, there will obviously be a stage in which she embraces these things through the fog of her experience. And until she does the work, whether it be her therapy, whether it be her finding God, or whether it be anything like that, is when she'll be able to truly say, I picked this man from a clear lens. Right? And I want black people to understand that it's disrespectful to say that, I picked a white woman just because I like this white woman. We have to first respect the fact that our black women were put, I think Beyonce put in her song, the most disrespected woman in America is the black woman. The most disrespected person in America is the black woman. That's diaspora. So we have to respect, if you're a black man, you have to respect your black sisters and know that they were the most unrespected person in society. If we were the bottom, they were below us. So by respecting their experience, and like I said, the hierarchy was the white man, the white woman, the black man, the black woman. So black man is obviously going to try to shoot for the stars. So our our perspective was always just looking that way. And we have to understand that that was a fact of life, that our black woman was defamed. And she was defamed. And if you're saying that you picked it because you picked it, you're saying history didn't real. You're saying that black woman wears a weave for no reason. There's a reason why she has to wear a Eurocentric weave. There's a reason. There's a reason. And don't nullify her experience of the years that she spent burning her scalp with hair perms. Don't nullify, how much girl, do you know any girl right now in a black woman who doesn't have a burnt scalp from years do you know?
The hair at the back of my head doesn't grow because of that, actually.
Come on, sister. Come on, sister. Let's respect our sisters. They went through something.
At the back of my head, it only grows this length. The hair at the back of my head has not been longer than this in a decade and a half. I'm talking 15 years of just having damaged my hair. Yeah.
Thank you, sister. So let's put respect on you guys. It's time we put some respect on your experiences. Y'all were trying to catch up to Becky. Y'all were burning your scalps trying to catch up to Becky with the good hair. That was your experience. We were taught self-hate. The black man has self-hate. And I want to know a world if we were never colonized and we just came here as successful people from our motherland and we all just came like, listen, we're kings and queens back home. Let's come over here just to explore the world. I think we would definitely still had more eyes for our people because we wouldn't have had defame. It's just the subconscious mind. We would have had naturally eyes instinctually for our people. You know what I mean? Like, and that's, so we will never know a world that operated like that because we all came here trying to get into the system.
And so when you, because being in Ireland, I see a lot of black guys that are with white girls. I also see a growing number of black women that are with white men.
Yeah.
And I know that the dating motivations actually are a bit different, but I actually think we can talk about that when I interview you and Tilda together. But when you see a black man specifically, because I'll just say this and then I'll ask you the question. I know that for a lot of black girls that I know who date outside their race, obviously it's just because they've met someone that they liked, of course, but in a lot of cases it's because it's like, well, the black guys are so mean to us that we're just going where people like us, that kind of thing. But when you see, so that's why I'm not going to talk about black women right now, but in our next interview I will. But when you see a black guy with a white girl, you as Harrison Paul, who's dedicated his life now to black women, who, I don't think I know Tilda's your last woman, but I don't think, heaven forbid you two don't work out, I don't think you're going back to white women, I'm guessing. The look on your face tells me you're not. So when you see a black man with a white woman, do you doubt his love and intentions towards her? Like, do you believe he genuinely loves her?
I believe he doesn't yet know himself, or he doesn't yet have a deep grieving. Like one of my lines for my song that's coming out next week, I hope it's out, where I say in the rap, I say, we don't worry about that. I say now our kids in the mines dreaming about how to buy prayers. Now our kids in the mines, I'm talking about the kids in Africa, they're in the mines, right? Dreaming about how to buy prayers. They're putting themselves through these grave situations on how to buy a prayer. Maybe they'll get some call back out of there to be able to, maybe dreaming of the house they could do, or, and I said, yeah, so now our kids in the mind dreaming about how to buy prayers. So if I cry and you won't, then our bond stops there, and black men don't have that thing about us now as people where we say that means so much to me, my people, the struggle of my people, the what the black woman had to go through, her, like, when you're a black man and you think about that and you really think about it, and you really think about what your mama had to go through when she was going through white companies and had to go through those corporate things and being a black woman and how they treat her in there. And when you take that to the bottom of your heart, you want to implement love into a black woman. And you want to say, oh, girl, I'm going to put you on top of this pedestal. And I'm going to make sure you shine up there. And I'm going to make sure I love you so well that you shine like a light and you glow because you done went through so much. And when you really love that and you really hold that deep in your stomach, that it makes you weep sometimes. And you look at them and your heart grieves for them, you will find yourself just, it will be inevitable. So it's inevitable. It happened with me inevitably. Like the minute I started to think like this, like I said, even the beauty of them opened up. Everything opened up. I was like, I love y'all. Y'all are so special. You know what I mean? Like, and it opened up, you know. And last thing I'll say is this: men are hunters. Mm-hmm. We are hunters. We hunt what we want. We're not people who stumble across what we want. We're hunters. We hunt what we want. We hunt. So men saying, I just never stumbled across a black woman. You are a hunter. If you never stumble, you're going to hunt and you're going to find yourself one. The same way you went to hunt, you spend your whole life hunting for, you know what I mean, a Becky, you would have hunted one down. It's women who can stumble probably and fall across one guy and whatever. It's men who are hunter. If men were truly in love with themselves and never had those hang-ups, those self-hates, they will be on this market hunting down black women because we're hunters. That's why when a white man, when he wants to hunt one, he gonna find himself a sister and she gonna be sister. And he's gonna say, okay, look, I know there's lots of white women, but I'm looking for a sister. And you know him. That's why I respect those ones.
I'll tell you this. There's nobody who loves black female features more than a white guy that has a preference for black girls. No.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've seen, and I actually have a question as before we finalize, because I really want to hear about the single that you're releasing next week. I know, of course, you're in a relationship with. I can't wait for my audience to meet Tilda. Tilda is. I never met Tilda ever in person, but I found her through your Instagram, and I followed her because I just thought her energy she's amazing, and I know you know that.
Great,
but
great, right?
So of course you're in a happy relationship with a black woman, and you said that you know black women are your preference now, and she's the first black woman that you've ever been with. So given the fact that you have been enlightened to seeing the beauty of black women again, and sort of being into black women in a way that you never were before, do you still find white women attractive, or has that come to an end? Like, can you look at a white woman and say she is a beautiful woman?
I don't find any woman attractive but my darling wife to be.
I like that. I like that.
I don't find any woman attractive except for Tilda.
That's good. That's love. I can tell. Even the look on your face, you've softened. You were so strong, and now that I've talked about her, your voice has become. No, I love it. I love it. It's really. I mean, you've said a lot, and I'm sure that there's people who are gonna watch this part one and be like, "Whoa!" Some people are gonna say it and disagree. Are gonna listen to it and disagree. Some people are going to listen to you and be like, "I wish more people talk like that." Some people will be like, "I've never heard this before." You also said some things that I'd never heard of before, and so I'm so thank you so much for saying yes to this interview. And I can't wait for the next few parts because I know we're gonna have many interviews, and I know there's gonna be a lot of people that are going to want to hear about your story, what you think, and I'm going to ask people to ask questions for the next time. But you actually are releasing one or two singles next week on Friday, actually, and they're both very much tied into what we were talking about, your blackness and your culture. So can you just tell me a little bit about that, and then we can say goodbye, unfortunately.
No, it's been wonderful. So one of them is called Mission for You, and the other one's called Here It Comes. And the Mission for You is just basically me talking about Africa and in a love story. I'm on a mission for you. I'm on a mission for you. I'm on pursuit for you. And that's I did a video for it as well. And the video actually, I kind of derived it from, I knew I wanted to wear a suit because I was thinking mission, and then it all came together so well, and I was kind of thinking about it. When the idea came, I was looking, I was like, this reminds me of Pursuit of Happiness. This guy who's carrying this big thing on Pursuit, and everyone thinks he's crazy walking on the street with his big, huge battery or whatever it was, but he knew what he was trying to get. And it's like, I feel that so much. It's like I'm on pursuit of Africa, and it's like everyone looking at him like he's crazy. It's like, I'm walking in the place, but I'm on pursuit. And then the other song is called Here It Comes, and that song is really about it's just about I can almost taste our restoration, and I kind of say restoration's in sight. Here it comes, can you see it? And there's a line that says, do your mother see signs when she lifts up her eyes? Because we all as black people have had a praying mother. You know what I mean? Yeah. We've all had one. So
The
I use
mother
that
that prays all
connotation.
night long. That's my mama.
There you go. You know. So I use that connotation of your mother. So do your mother see signs? But I'm also saying Mother Africa. You know, like motherland when she lifts up her eyes. You know, so like it's like here it comes. You know, restoration's on the rise. It's here. You know what I mean? We're getting more powerful. I said, did you know your soil is ripe? You know, and yeah, so I'm addressing that, and that's what it is.
Okay. No, I can I'm so excited to hear it. I was listening to Equity actually this morning, and I was also listening to the song that what's it called? No, this the very first song you released like 9 years ago. Time to Breathe.
Time to breathe.
Time to Breathe. Yeah. I was listening to your discography. You're amazing, and I can't wait. I can't wait for, even my audience as well to listen to your work, because your music, it's so good. Like Time to Breathe should be in a club or like something. It's so good. So Harrison, thank you so much for part one of many. I can't wait to talk to you more. I have even more in detail. The questions I asked you now, you said that they were smart questions. That was just so people can get to know you. I'm going to ask deeper questions about what you think. And I can't wait also for to meet Tilda and everything. And yeah, thank you so much for coming on the platform and for speaking your mind. I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Harrison
No,
Paul.
I appreciate you. Thank you.
And what's your social media on Instagram so people can see?
Harrison Paul Official.
Harrison Paul Official. So if you guys want to see the stories that I see every other day, follow Harrison on Harrison Paul Official.
At owner's risk. At your own risk, isn't it?
At your own risk, exactly. At your own risk. Be prepared to read things that might shock you, things you've never read before, but be prepared to also open your mind. Because there have been times where you've also put stuff on your stories where I'm like, or just trying to be like, I've never thought about this, or why is he saying this? And I think about it deeper and I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. So even if you don't agree with everything that you see Harrison say, if you go to anything with an open mind, you'll be very surprised what you learn. And I really like it when you repost a lot of the white people that DM you agreeing with you and all that stuff. And so it shows that, you obviously are not trying to chase white people away. Otherwise you wouldn't even be believing them when they tell you that they like what you said. So I can't wait for the next part. I know that it's going to be an even deeper and even more interesting conversation. And thank you so much, Harrison. And I hope you guys have a very good day. And I can't wait until you see what's next.
God bless you. Thank you so much, Tatenda.